You're listening to the Sales Development Podcast, the only audio forum focused and dedicated 100% to sales development. If you care about growing your skills and getting more new sales appointments, pipeline, and closed-won deals, you came to the right place. Subscribe to the show on YouTube, iTunes, or Spreaker, and be sure to go back and listen to all the episodes for the best strategies, tips, and tactics out there on running a high-performance sales development program. And now, your host, founder and CEO of Tenbound at tenbound.com, David Delaney.
Imagine cold calling a C-level executive at a Target account where he or she personally picks up the phone and agrees to a meeting because they just happen to be seeking a solution like yours. Stop imagining and start dialing with DiscoverOrg, the world's leading prospect intelligence platform. Visit discoverorg.com/SDR to learn more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sales Development Podcast. This is a thrill for me. I am so excited to get this individual on the show. This is someone I've been following for years, has made a huge impact on my life. And I think if you haven't been following him, you're nuts because he's making a huge impact in this industry. Sangram Vajre is the co-founder and CMO of Terminus and the author of Accountbased Marketing for Dummies. How you doing today, sir?
I am good, man. Thank you so much. The fact that you just said, I had an impact, man, that makes my day. Isn't that what we all want to do every day?
Yeah, it really, as I was prepping for the show, I watched an interview that you did about a year ago on YouTube with an agency where you were talking about how you came up with the Flip My Funnel movement and where you were kind of coming from in putting that together. And I remember watching that about a year ago and I go, this guy gets it. He really understands what's going on out there. So in any case, I'm a fan, as you could tell. Thanks for coming on the show.
Man, thank you so much. Hopefully I can do justice to you and your audience.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely. So if there's still some people that have been under a rock for the last few years and don't know about your background, could you bring us up to speed? How'd you go from, the last few years to become a real thought leader in this space?
Awesome, man. I don't know about a thought leader, but I definitely have a lot of thoughts like all of us, and I try to put it out there as much as possible. So very quickly, probably the most recent one has been I ran marketing at Pardot, and we got acquired by ExactTarget and then acquired by Salesforce within a year. So that was pretty awesome to go from a 150 people startup company all of a sudden to be part of the most iconic brand out there like Salesforce. And I still remember, this is something I share quite often, is that when we got acquired, the manager I had at ExactTarget, he said that, hey, whatever you do at Pardot, think you're 1x. And now that you're acquired by ExactTarget, think about 10x. I'm like, yeah, I got it. That sounds great. I can start thinking big. I get it. 6 months later, when we got acquired by Salesforce, he said, remember the 10x conversation we had? I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm working on it. I'm thinking big. And, I got my team working on it. He said, oh, no, forget about it. Now start thinking 100x because now you are part of Salesforce. And really that made a big impact on my life and my career and my thought process is that when you think about stuff, it really matters how you think and how big you think and what big really means to you at any given standpoint. So I think all that to share is that it really stretched my imagination of what the world can be and what one thought can, one idea can truly change the world. So along the way, I stayed at Salesforce for a couple of years to see how the magic happens behind the scenes. Truly, truly amazing. And it can be a whole series of what I learned at Salesforce at some point that I'm happy to share. And then, along the lines, right, we had a second kid and my wife was like, yeah, this is great. We're in Atlanta. And, the opportunity was for me to go to Salesforce headquarters in San Francisco and be there. My wife is like, no, we're staying here. We got 2 kids. We're not moving. And so that made me think gosh, I got to figure out what else I'm going to do. So long story short there, I met a couple of my co-founders. They were all already on a journey of doing some really interesting thing in the B2B advertising space. And I just felt like it was godsend where, everything aligned. I'm not a tech guy, but I'm a marketer at heart. So I believe that what they were working on was an incredible technology that was just not talked about. And that led us to the whole idea of account-based marketing. Ended up writing a book on ABM that Wiley's published a couple of years ago, which has been phenomenal. And honestly, David, the biggest thing, probably the most exciting thing for me, is having people, seeing people who have now account-based marketing as their title. If you think about it, 2 years ago, that wasn't even a thing. And now there's going to be a shortage of people looking for people who have that in their job description or who have done something in ABM. You can literally Google and see hundreds of thousands of jobs looking for account-based marketing. And I feel like, man, that's something that I can take all the way to the grave.
That is amazing. I mean, it's category creation. I think that's what they used on the interview that I saw with you. It's category creation. And so I'm looking right now, I've got the book in front of me. And so there's two funnels, right? There's the old school funnel that's the regular shape. And then there's the Flip My funnel. So tell us about that. What's the difference between these two?
Sure. And again, I always love to tell stories. So a quick story on that is like, I was at MarTech conference by Scott Brinker, and most people kind of had, going to that conference, and I just wanted to learn. And I saw Jill Raleigh, who is a social selling evangelist, and I'm assuming most of your community people in your community are very aware with Jill and her work. And she was speaking at a MarTech conference, and I was like blown away. So Jill and I started talking, and then on a flight back from San Fran to Atlanta, I was stuck in a middle seat between two incredibly drunk people. So if you have a 5-hour flight and you're sitting in the middle seat with two drunk people, like there are only two choices: try to jump off the plane or try to just put your headphones in and be creative. So that's what I chose, the second choice. And I just sitting down, I had a piece of napkin. I started to draw the traditional funnel, as you said. And I was like, well, if it has to be a funnel, like this is a decade-old funnel, how do we change this? How do we make people, how do we change the way people think about stuff? And you can just go and tell, here's a new idea. You have to always think about like meet where people are. So identify the problem where there is, and then define a promised land, right? It's kind of the standard way of looking at things. So I just flipped the funnel out of pure curiosity and started coming up with the stages. So like, to really answer your question, the biggest difference between the two funnels, and anybody can go to Terminus.com or flipmyfunnel.com and you could see the whole narrative around it. But the biggest difference is the traditional funnel really is broad at the top, which means let's just make calls, emails, landing pages, ebooks, and send to as many people as you possibly can. And hopefully some of them would be the right audience, and hopefully some of them might have time and money to buy, and hopefully some of them become your customer. So just that by scenario, as a salesperson, everybody's pretty familiar with this, that the Forrester stat that less than 1% of your target audience, or less than 1% of the leads that sales and marketing teams create turn into customer, which only means that 99% of what we do doesn't really work. So Flip My Funnel is an answer, a promised land, if you will, or philosophy that one can think about, which is start with the customer first. So the top of the pyramid is really identify your target audience. Like, who are you going after? And it's not a person, it's really the accounts that you want to go after. It's a financial services company in Fortune 500. So let's just get to those, right? Don't worry about everybody else. Just focus on those 500 financial services like Fortune, companies that you want to go after. The second part is expand, which means go after the people now within those companies and expand your reach. Don't just worry about that one person who fills out a lead and you try to get in front of all the other people that are part of the decision-making process. That will, newsflash, never ever fill out a form or never respond to your email. We all know that. And so we know there are 10, 15 people part of the decision-making process. Focus on those. Let's just go after them. And then engaging people on their terms. Emails and calls, we all know, are really, really challenging to get responses on. Maybe they watch videos. Maybe they still respond to direct mail. Maybe they go on certain websites on ESPN and watch the game and stuff. So be where they are, meet where they are, engage people on their terms, and then finally turn them into advocates. So I kind of went through it really fast, but you can see all the narrative on flipmyfunnel.com. And the whole idea was, let's create, it's not about Terminus, it's not about our company. We obviously help and do some of it, but it's really how do we change the perception of like volume-based marketing and sales activities to really tiered, focused, targeted account marketing and sales? And that has, as you know, has really been a great way to introduce a new category to the community.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's really taken off because I think sales understands where you're coming from when you talk account-based, because that's kind of how they've always looked at it. And then marketing understands it because it's generating real interest, real pipeline, real revenue. So it just makes sense across the board. But I've got tons of questions for you. So one is, a lot of the executives that I talk to about this, they came of age during the original funnel. And now they're in executive positions and they're still obsessed with leads and marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads and the old way of doing things. And, when you talk to somebody who still looks at the world from that old methodology, where do you start to explain account-based?
That's a great question. There are a lot of early adopters, and that's what happens with every new category is like people who want to just, try a new iPhone, right? There are people still standing outside the Apple store trying to get your iPhone, even though you're not, you can get it 2 days later or through Amazon. So we always have early adopters and then people who are trying to like see what happens and then, mass market adoption. And that's where kind of we are. I think intuitively, people get it. People understand, yeah, right, let's go after the right people on the right channels and engage them on their terms. Makes perfect sense. The problem is, in my view, and just going through like, Terminus now has about 400 customers, and I enjoy talking to our customers and learning from what they're doing. And what I've learned is it's not necessarily the starting point. I mean, they're definitely really a lot of things that they can do to kind of start off. But it really starts with identifying who you're going after. Like, if we don't know what your target audience looks like, and it's simple and painful it might sound for somebody, a lot of companies don't know it. They don't know who their target audience is. I've been on calls and I have turned down some people who wanted to buy Terminus and say, guys, you need to go back and look at, if you don't know which accounts you're going to go after, this probably is not a good idea because you will be wasting a lot of money. So I think the number one step in this whole process is to align marketing sales together and say, we are one team and our job is, like, or you can hashtag one team is what we call it. Your job is to figure out what your target audience looks like. And once you do that, once you truly do that, and B2B, we are like blessed because in B2B, it's not hard to find. Either we are going after X industry, or we're going after this vertical, or we are going after this geography. It's not like B2C where we're trying to sell Nike shoes to millions of people all over the world. We can really truly find out which accounts are, and there are all kind of tools from LinkedIn to or Navigator to all that to kind of distill it down to a list of accounts. So number one step, or the starting point for anybody to look at, is really identifying the right accounts that they want to go after.
How many more meetings could you set if your team made 3 times more calls per day and connected directly to decision makers? How much bigger would your pipeline be if you booked 20% more meetings this month? Don't wonder. Check out DiscoverOrg at discoverorg.com/SDR for personalized demo.
Right. And that, I think, comes down to alignment on the senior executive team between the leader of sales and the leader of marketing, because a lot of times it's like the right hand doesn't really know what the left hand is doing, and they've got different KPIs and different ways to get that big old bonus at the end of the year that they're trying to go with. And it's like it seems like really it kind of has to start from the CEO to say, hey, we really need to get on the same page around this, because otherwise there's going to be that misalignment, right?
Absolutely. I actually wrote a post on that the buck stops at the CEO when it comes to account-based marketing. I think I published on Inc. recently. And the whole point of that was you are so right, man. I think it's not just marketing and sales. Like and here's the thing, and I think everybody in the sales community would totally, hopefully empathize and understand this very quickly, is, nobody on the sales side ever closes Johnny or Sangram or Dan, none of that, right? We close accounts. That means that's why we have account executives. Nobody hires a lead executives on the sales side. So sales have always understood the meaning of account. Marketing, on the other side, has been giving them leads, and thereby the disconnect. Like, you're giving them leads when they're closing accounts. So it's it shouldn't be that hard for all of us to recognize that is the problem. If you give leads to your sales team who are trying to close accounts, there is going to be a disconnect no matter what. So I think we need to kind of stop giving leads to sales, but actually say, what are the accounts we need to go after, guys? Let's come up with that. Figure out which tier you want to go after. And you're absolutely right. If the CEO of the company is saying, marketing, give me 1,000 leads a month because our conversion rate is 10%, so I need 1,000 leads to close, X number of deals, then marketing is going to just go ahead and create incredible infographics and ebooks and all kinds of things to just generate those 10,000 leads and ask for more money. But in all of this, we lose the point of how many of them are actually our ideal customer profile? How many of them are actually the accounts we want to sell to? And that's really where lies the conundrum.
Exactly. And I've asked this, I've talked about this before, but it's like 10 years ago or so, there was this position called the Chief Revenue Officer, that was supposed to cure this problem because, we're all, at the end result, it's how is the revenue tracking back to the pipeline and tracking back to the appointments, and so somebody kind of overseeing this divide between sales and marketing. But then it seems like the CRO has kind of disappeared. You don't really see them around, or they're just like a glorified VP of sales.
That is absolutely true, man. Yeah. I think we have seen this. I've seen this personally time and time again. So, just very quickly at Terminus, we hired Todd McCormick as our CRO and then Peter Herbert as our VP of marketing. And both of them have the same exact number. And they call it #OneTeam. And the whole point is that marketing does not have a different number than the chief revenue officer. It's one number, and none of them ever talk about leads. They only talk about, here's our tiered accounts we want to go after. What does our penetration look like? And I'm not trying to share that, hey, we got it all right. Like, we make so many mistakes at our own company trying to figure it out, because I'll be honest, it is extremely hard to change this whole notion of less is more and the only accounts, and what about all the inbound you get? It is extremely hard because we're training salespeople to have more calls, more emails because the percentage is dropping. So it was an incredibly hard journey for us so far. Even though we are talking about account-based marketing, it was one of the hardest things for us to do internally. But I'll tell you this, now that we are actually living it and doing it, we are seeing incredible amount of beautiful, not only just results, but the harmony, the conversations are no longer about give me that lead, or you haven't given me enough leads, or what do I do with this lead? It's more of or what the SLA between my MQL is between and your SQL, all those stupidity, it's totally off. And we're now focusing on, okay, guys, we only have 15% penetration of our target accounts. What are we doing? How do we get in front of these accounts? Guess what? Sales and marketing, everybody's ears are perked up and they can think about what to do. So it's a beautiful thing.
So they're actually starting to focus on the right problem versus just the noise of the old model that just doesn't work anymore. I got 2 questions for you. Okay, this is a challenge. When I go in and I start working with companies and I start talking about this, and it's kind of deer in the headlights. One is the metrics to be able to identify success, because everything's still set up for the old model.
Right.
Get 100 leads, make 1,000 phone calls, and then it goes down into sales. But it's really hard to use Salesforce to set up like an ABM, program. And then the second thing is, and it's probably what you guys do, is how do you measure the effectiveness of that penetration that you're talking about?
Yeah, no, man, I think both of them are really, really important questions. I'll take the second one first, and then I'll get back to Salesforce. So in terms of just measurement, you're absolutely right. Salesforce is a great place to kind of, as a starting point, where are the accounts and what stages they are. You can run even pipeline velocity campaigns or upsell, cross-sell campaigns. That's the beauty of account-based marketing. If you know your account, you can run ABM across the board. It's no longer marketing, give me leads. Marketing can actually say, okay, we have opportunities stuck in the pipeline. We need to kind of move them forward. Well, what happens in the pipeline? Well, at stage 3, it gets stuck in procurement. okay, so we need to create something to appeal to the procurement team why this is a wise investment. Okay, let's create content, let's create some ad campaigns and go after the procurement team in these target accounts. Imagine the conversation, right? Like it changes the whole marketing value prop. They're no longer talking about leads. They're talking about how do we close deals together. So I just want to kind of highlight the fact that ABM, if anybody's thinking out there still that it's a demand generation, give me leads, sales, we'll work on it kind of thing, then they're grossly underestimating the power that account-based marketing can bring to your organization as both as sales and marketing. It can be used for upsell, cross-sell. Think about if you have a division at GE that you have selling to, and now you already have them a customer, and you want to sell to every single division within GE. Guess what? You can literally put GE and say, all right, here are all the other functions within GE or divisions we want to go after. Let me start putting ad campaigns or direct mail or email campaigns to all of them, and marketing sales can work together on it. So just wanted to kind of make sure people understand ABM is way broader for almost every single marketing and sales activity. It's no longer about marketing, give me leads, and sales will work. So that's just at a high level, just so people recognize the power of it. Okay. Then going back to your question around like using Salesforce from a reporting perspective, it's really, really hard to do that. And when we think about what should marketing share with sales to show value of ABM, and if it's not leads, and that's a very fair question. And I believe the answer to that question lies in time and engagement. So for example, if somebody's spending more time with you, let's just take a hypothetical, right? Two people in a relationship. Well, if you're in love with somebody, what are you going to do? You're going to spend more time with that person, right? Your spouse, like if you have a great relationship, you're going to spend more time. If you don't have a great relationship, you're going to try to avoid each other, right? So that's exactly the same thing. If your accounts love what you're doing and are engaging, they're going to spend more time on your website. So if marketing is doing their job, imagine you have 50 accounts that you want to go after. You already have their contact information from LinkedIn Navigator and all that stuff. You don't need marketing to create leads anymore. You already have those email addresses and contact. What you need to know is which of these 50 accounts are actually engaging with us so that we can focus on them and more aggressively go after them, because you can't go after every one of these 50 accounts. So imagine if you can start tracking. Instead of leads, say, these are the 50 accounts, I have all the content, all the contacts I need. I want to know how many of these accounts are interested in me. And the way you do that is actually figuring out, and marketing can do their advertising, direct mail, email, content, all of the campaigns they want to do, targeted to these 50 accounts, and then tell you and show you on your website, hey, out of these 50 accounts, here are the 10 accounts that are spending more time on your website. And as soon as that happens, you now know that you don't need to go after all these 50 accounts. You need to focus your time on these 10 accounts because they are more engaged. So I believe time is the metric that is so not tracked or so kind of like thought about, like, well, an afterthought. I think time is one of the most important metrics that marketing should be tracking and sharing with the sales team.
Okay, and that's something that they can track using what kind of tools? Using Terminus or using, is there a way, how do they do that usually?
I mean, definitely what Terminus can do that. You can also do that through Google Analytics. You can also do that by putting some kind of tracking code and stuff like that. And there are tons of other tools that I'm sure people can find out. The point really, though, is that a metric that people are tracking?
No.
Are people even thinking about time? And or if you know that these accounts are spending more time with you than others, what difference would it make in your ability to prioritize those accounts? But you're absolutely right. Like Terminus tracks it, and that's something that we kind of look at very much. Like that's our we don't care about lead scoring and all those things just because they downloaded 50 pieces of content doesn't mean they read it, right? So, but if I know they spend time on my website and these are my target accounts, not any account, but my target accounts, now I know game is on.
Okay, perfect. All right. So now I want to talk about where do the SDRs fit into your game plan at Terminus, since you guys are like the laboratory for ABM, and the usual approach is like, hey, our sales are down, we need more appointments, let's hire some SDRs. I mean, that's kind of the thought process. So where does it come in your grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest. Like we did it all. In the early days, we kind of did as many calls as we can because we're early stage like startup company and all that stuff. And we realized, man, we are burning people out. We are burning our customers out. We actually knew that we were like really making some of these relationships bad with people who are never going to be our customers because we just blasted with SDR calling and emailing. So we had to put an end to that. And the way now SDR works is it's a beautiful model to kind of think about. And I'll highly recommend, Todd or somebody to, if you want to really get into the process of what they're doing. But I'll tell you how when I see it, it's just so magical. Literally, we use, and I'll go through all the tools that we use. Is that okay? Like just to kind of talk through all the tech that we use to kind of do ABM.
Sure.
Okay. So, we literally, the team will first, they would warm up these accounts through Terminus ads. So that way, these accounts know that, these accounts are important for us. Like, so we tier it and the right tiered accounts and stuff. Then the sales team starts doing video and so we use Vidyard, for example, their, Chrome plugin, and they literally do a video. So let's say one of the SDR is Taylor. Taylor would literally say, "Hey, Joe at Square, I'm just on your website," and she will show her face as well as like she will have a whiteboard in her hand and that just puts their name on it. So we make it super personalized. So she will literally say, "Hey, you're one of our best fit accounts that we believe that ABM is the right thing for you. Here's why I think it is, and here's why I want to get in touch with you. So if you have time, let's chat in the next couple of weeks." So she literally creates a personalized video. And then she can do that because she only has 50 accounts to work on. She doesn't have thousands of accounts. So she creates things like that and then kind of shares that with them. Then, a couple of weeks later, if that hasn't done, we'll send them a direct mail with a copy of Accountbased marketing book. We'll send one to marketing, one to sales, and say that, "Hey, you guys might want to talk about this because this allows sales and marketing to come together." If that doesn't work, we'll do a personalized video. Me and my counterpart like Todd will do a video saying that, "Hey, you are really an important account for us. We're being hard to get in touch with you, but as an executive team, we believe that we can really truly serve you. So this is our last call or last effort that we want to do with you. We'll love to get in front of you and make sure that you recognize the power of what our product can do for you. And if it's interest, great. If not, we totally understand." So we'll do some sort of like a personalized executive outreach as well to their executive on their side. Again, the only reason we can do all these different touch points at such a personalized level is because we only care about those 50 accounts per rep, and the rep will find every way possible information about these people and the accounts in order to make them super valuable and super personalized to that person and to that company. So that's kind of our tool stack. We use Terminus, we use Vidyard, we use SalesLock for our cadences, and a whole bunch of tools like obviously Salesforce. So it's been just a combination of many things and many people involved in it.
And it's very coordinated, obviously, with what you're doing from a strategic perspective. The SDR team is a very coordinated part. It's an arm of that effort.
Absolutely. I mean, it's no longer, again, we have made all the mistakes. So it's not that we got it and we don't know. I don't think we got it all right. Even now we stumble, but we have learned that when you reduce the number of accounts and you create value through every step of the process, and no touch is a random touch. Every touch is something of value that we want to provide and add our personality so people know that there is a real person behind that email as opposed to a kind of templated email and things like that. The open rate and click-through rates on those are off the roof. They're not less than 1%. They are like 30, 40, 50% because it's incredibly valuable information.
Got it. Okay. And so it's interesting because we talk about the silent sales floor sometimes. It's like this phenomenon in the sales development community of nobody's talking on the phone to customers. It's just like clicking on their computer. But, the fear of a lot of sales leaders is they walk through it's like a library. It's like nobody's talking to anybody. This might be detrimental to our sales. But for your team, that sounds like that's not quite an issue because they might be doing research. They might be planning a strategy. They might be, digging in on one of the accounts. So you're not as worried about that. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, we're not worried about that at all. I think it's, at the end of the day, what works today may not work tomorrow. The strategy we are doing today may not work because it may be overused. So we're always looking for new ways, and we have this internal theme. Our core value is keys to the Ferrari. Which literally means that, like, guys, you have the keys to the Ferrari. Don't wait for somebody to give you a green flag and say go. Like, you have the keys in your pocket. You drive it. This is your Ferrari. We hired you because we believe that you're one of the smartest people. So, Morgan Ingram, right? I mean, like, he came in and he said, you know what? I want to do these things. We're like, great, go for it. We want people to have their personal brand. We know people buy from people. We all know that. People like people. We all know the fact that there will be companies that we will never buy from because we don't like the salesperson in that company, right? And there are things like that. Or we'll buy from this company because the salesperson in this company is incredible, and I know they will bend over backwards. So we all know that we all are so emotionally charged human beings that we do things purely a lot of times just because we love, and that's a feeling that you can't replicate in a product, right? So I truly believe that the more you harness the creativity of people and not make it a system, make it a innovative process, right? And it's a continuous process of improvement. We all are surprised by the amazing things our customers do. We really didn't know, like, quite honestly, when we started with ABM, that it will go beyond so many different upsell, cross-sell, velocity campaigns and things like that. But man, I am blown away with the creativity that people have.
No, it's funny. I have a perfect example of this. I've never actually met you, but I feel like I know you because you're always putting out really high value content, and you're doing videos and all these things. So I feel like I know you. So just a quick story. I was at Dreamforce a couple weeks ago, and I had finally landed a meeting with this guy that I've been trying to meet face to face for a long time. And we finally met up, and we sat down, and we were having a cup of coffee, and we were just about to get started, and you walked by, and I was like, oh my God, there he is. I really wanted to meet you because I felt like I knew you already, but I couldn't be rude to this guy. But anyway, so
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. That was the right thing to do.
But I feel like your creativity has really shown through, and emotionally, it's like you're building a connection with the audience, which I think it's hard. Just taking it back to my initial question, if you just are trying to follow like that old lead gen, demand gen playbook of, like make a million phone calls and spray and pray and all that stuff, you're not building up that trust that you have to have nowadays.
Now, and that's the key phrase you just said, trust. Like, trust, it transcends everything. Like, and it's in measure. You can't measure trust. You can't measure like emotional connection. And again, we're not trying to sell that something doesn't work. Like, we're all in the business of selling something at the end of the day. But we all value trust more than anything else. And when we trust something, we would essentially pay more for it. We would essentially be okay with some misses. We would be like all those things. We know that our customers of Terminus have given us a pass so many times. We don't have a perfect product, especially didn't have it 2 years ago when we started off. But I know customers who have stuck around with us because they said, you know what? We believe in your vision. We believe that you're going to do everything you can to make it better. And they have stuck with us just because they like us. Just because they know we're working hard and we care enough to do the best we can. So I think that you just said something that truly, truly connects with me as, just as a person, is like we're really, if we are in any business, I feel like we're in the business of creating trust.
Yeah. And that brings me, I know that your time's valuable. We're coming up on the hour. So it brings me to my last quick question that I have for you. I want to talk about this Flip My Funnel movement and the road shows that you were doing. And just a quick backstory on that is about a year ago, I was thinking about the sales development conference, to have a conference around sales development. I pitched it to a few people. They weren't interested. So I literally had watched that video that you did, and you were talking about your perspective on putting it together, and I just went ahead and did it, and it was super successful. Awesome. And I thank you for inspiring me, honestly, to do it. So tell me about, how did you come up with Flip My Funnel? What was your thought process there, just in case folks are not aware of your thought process behind that?
Sure. So for just people who don't know, Flip My Funnel is a community that is, out there to build the largest B2B community of, marketers. It kind of started with marketers, and now we have like sales and customer success kind of joining in. So hopefully one day we'll build together a great community of just people who want to challenge the status quo. And the idea was simple, the Flip funnel that we just walked through earlier in the call. And it was like, well, we can create a Terminus event, or we can create a community event where people are coming in and talking about this. And we don't need to kind of take the center stage. We don't need to have logo of our brand everywhere. We want to really bring people together. And if that's what we tried to do, what would happen? So it was literally a dream. So we literally pulled together our first event in Atlanta in 2015 after after I came back from the flight. And we put an event literally in 2 months, and we had like 350 people show up. And all the people that spoke at the conference were all like thought leaders and practitioners. We did not have a single session at the conference. And even today, we have done like 9 conferences. We still do not have a session on Terminus and a product pitch or anything like that. We had a booth just like everybody else. We're putting together our next conference in August 9th in 2018. You can check it out on flipmyfunnel.com. And it's all around the same idea. It's like, hey, let's just bring community. We're like now 1,000+ people are coming to the conference. The community grew from, in 2015, we had 500. 2016, we had about 3,000. And 2017, we are about 7,000 people now. So the community is just growing leaps and bounds. And all these people who are sponsoring the conference are like Salesforce, Marketo, Engagio, obviously Terminus, and like there are 60 sponsors at the last conference. And again, if you think about it, we're still a startup company, 2-3 years in the works, and we're putting this massive conference together. And I believe that that's happening because, one, people recognize that we're trying to do something good here, and we're trying to not just pitch our product. We're trying to create and spark an idea and a movement. And the sponsors feel good about it too, because they're not kind of sponsoring Terminus, they're sponsoring the community. So all in all, it's a win for the people who attend, it's a win for the people who speak, and it's a win for the vendors who want to sponsor something like this. So I believe that I'll invite everybody to think about creating whatever community you want to create in your niche, and trying to, I think the most selfish thing you can do, quite honestly, is being selfless. And I kind of want to almost end that on that note, because I think, the most selfish thing you absolutely can do is be selfless. Because as soon as you drop your armor, you drop your logo, and you drop thing, you become human. And all of a sudden you're more attractive to people than when you put your logo of your brand all over your body and face and everything. So I believe the most selfish thing you possibly can do is be selfless.
That is amazing. That is a great way to put it, because, it was funny because I saw your discussion and I put together the conference. It was just called the Sales Development Conference, and my company is called Tenbound, but that wasn't really emphasized. And then I heard somebody saying, "Oh, are you going to the Tenbound conference?" And I was like, what? That's not what it's called. You know what I mean? Because
I'm so proud of you, man, for doing that, because it's hard to do and it takes guts to pull that together.
Yeah.
But when you do it, I think people recognize and people will give you credit. They are all thinking about you and they're all giving you credit. But none of us have to do it in this loud, brash way. We have to do it in a human way.
Exactly, to build up that trust. And then honestly, like just taking it all the way back to the beginning, you were in the right place at the right time in your transitional period, and you had a good wife who gave you some good advice to stick around in Atlanta, but you had to put yourself out there and take a risk and, get out of your house and go talk to people to be able to do that. So it's not you were in the right place at the right time, but you also had to put yourself out there and be selfless and try something new. And I think that's another takeaway, folks. You got to get out there to get in the right place at the right time. Get out into your community, be selfless, because that ultimately will benefit you.
Absolutely, man. Amen. Amen to that.
Very good. Well, Sangram, that was awesome. I knew it would be. I also already want to do round 2. I had a lot of fun chatting with you, and definitely if the audience hasn't connected, can they go over to LinkedIn? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, man, I'm all over LinkedIn and Twitter. So at Sangram Vajre, you can find me. You can tweet me. If you want a copy of the book, you can tweet at me. I'll happy to send that over too. So I'm all about kind of spreading the love.
Yeah, man, this book is awesome, by the way. I mean, if it's a blueprint, if you want to be able to, talk about this and implement it at your company, I would definitely pick up a copy of the book. Thanks again, and I appreciate you supporting our sales development community.
I love it, man. Well, thanks for having me on the call, and hopefully it was valuable to each and every one of your community members.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Development Podcast, the only audio forum 100% focused and dedicated to sales development, with your host, David Delaney. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube and take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes. Your support makes our show possible. If you are struggling with your sales development program, contact us at 10bound.com for a no-obligation exploratory call. Again, that's 10bound.com.